Welcome to the Egg Whisperer Show, a program exclusively designed to promote reproductive health awareness and discuss fertility preservation options. Here is your host, the Harvard-educated fertility specialist, Dr. Aimee.
She's known as the Egg Whisperer.
Fertility expert Dr. Aimee Bozadeh.
And you have yet another success story
Just launched by an East Bay fertility doctor.
Welcome to the Egg Whisperer Show. The title of today's show is Reaching Your Peak Fertile Potential with Dr. Lorne Brown. Welcome, Dr. Brown. Thank you for joining us today.
And Dr. Aimee, thank you for having me on your show. I'm a fan of yours.
Oh, thank you. I'm a fan of yours as well. And I just want to share with our audience a little bit more about you. You're the founder of AcuBalance Wellness Center in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. You left your career as a CPA to receive a doctorate of traditional Chinese medicine, TCM, at Vancouver's International College of Traditional Chinese Medicine, and then continued to pursue training in hypnosis, functional medicine, cold laser therapy, and Psych K to allow you to offer an integrative approach to assist the body's innate ability to heal pain, digestive disorders, anxiety, hormone imbalances, and reproductive health issues. And you've done a lot of groundbreaking work around laser acupuncture, and that's truly like what I'm just so amazed about your work around that, and why I wanted you to come on today, as well as integrative medicine. And I'm excited to have you here to talk about your practice and experiences. So welcome again.
Thank you. I'm glad to talk. I'm excited to talk about the laser. I'm quite passionate about it, and so I'm glad that you and I are going to have this conversation today.
Awesome. Just a little bit before we get into that, though, tell us about yourself and that transition from CPA to Doctor of Traditional Chinese Medicine. How did that happen?
I know it sounds very different, and I always joke, it's not a big deal. I used to balance your debits and credits. Now I balance your yin and yang. It wasn't a big leap. It's all about balance. But for my personal experience, actually, I was really interested in the sciences. I did a Bachelor of Science in Math, and I also wanted some business background. My family are entrepreneurs, and my extended family are PhDs and physicians. And so I grew up kind of in both worlds. And I developed some health issues in my early university days. And, they called it IBS, called it chronic fatigue syndrome, called it candida. And I did do the Western route at the beginning, but I really wasn't getting better because it was kind of a chronic issue. And it was Chinese medicine and mind body work that resolved it. And that happened while I was doing my CPA, becoming a chartered accountant. And so just out of interest, for about 10 years, I just studied nutrition and what we call alternative medicine out of interest. And then one day, at that time, I was in private practice, not in private practice, I was in industry. I was the controller for some of the ocean spray growers, that cranberry drink here in British Columbia. And I just decided to go for it. And I went back to school to see, is this a hobby or is this something I really wanted to do? And so that's how the transition came. It was my experience with the medicine for my health that made me very intrigued. And now here I am many years later, over 20 some odd years later, and that's what I do full time.
Awesome. And then how do you get interested in treating fertility issues?
I'll make this story very short as well. So when I opened up my practice, I thought I'd be working mostly with a lot of digestive health issues because that's what got me into the medicine. And the people that go to health professionals, whether you're practicing Chinese medicine or conventional Western medicine, are women. Not as many men go. And so in Chinese medicine, we look at the whole. We can't just focus on your digestive issues. And so when we do our health history, we always go through the menstrual cycle. And as I was treating their issues for digestive issues, IBS, they were noting their PMS was going away, their menstrual pain, or if they're menopause or menopausal symptoms. And I became known as the PMS guy in my city. And then somebody came to me around 2001-ish, 2002-ish, and she was going through an IVF and asked me to support her because she was seeing, at the time her name is Randine Lewis. She's the author of The Infertility Cure. Randine was in Houston, I'm in Vancouver, and she said, can you help me with my IVF using acupuncture and herbs? And asked if I would follow Randine's approach. And Randine and I became good friends. She was my mentor, and women talk. And by 2004, my practice became focused only on reproductive health. So it kind of found me because I didn't even know what IVF was back in 2002 when that first patient came to me.
And that's incredible. And now you're basically, I mean, not basically, you're known as being one of the leading natural reproductive wellness clinics specializing in integrated care for fertility, pregnancy, and women's health. And what do you mean when you say natural reproductive wellness clinic? What are you focusing on?
So when I think of natural, we're working with you, the individual, when the woman comes into our practice or the man, and we're working with its natural or its innate ability to heal. The body has this innate ability to heal. And the analogy I like to use is when you get cut, you don't have to sit and look at the cut and go, heal, heal, heal. The body knows what to do. It can self-regulate. It has this innate ability to heal. But if you get a really good gash, a really good cut, you may get stitches. And what that thread does, it doesn't do the healing. It creates an environment to support the body's innate ability to heal. So it brings the tissue together by creating that environment that supports the body to heal. And so that's what we're doing from that natural approach. We're supporting the body on a cellular level, that environment, so it can function optimally and return to its ability to self-regulate and heal.
And I know you also have what you call the healthy baby approach. What does your approach mean for patients, and how do patients reach their peak fertility potential?
So the idea behind the healthy baby, again, it's kind of me liking math. So there's an equation: healthy baby equals healthy egg plus healthy sperm plus healthy uterine environment. And so I want to focus on what we really want. Women don't come to me saying they don't really want to get pregnant, actually. They want a healthy baby. They don't want to get to IVF transfer day. They want to have a healthy baby. They don't want to just freeze their eggs. They're doing it because they want a healthy baby. And so our focus is on healthy baby, and whether that happens in a lab like your clinic or it happens in the bedroom, our goal is healthy baby. And we do that by maximizing the egg quality, the sperm quality, and the uterine receptivity. And so this is that idea behind getting to your peak fertility potential. And how I share this with the women I see is I use a metaphor around gardening. And if you had a plant that you neglected and it looked a little worse for wear, oftentimes you can regain its vigor by maybe taking it out of direct sunlight, adding some fertilizer, increasing the water, giving it water, and this plant regains its vigor and gives off fruits and flowers. So this plant always had the potential to give off fruits and flowers. We didn't do donor roots. We didn't swap out the roots. The plant always had the potential. It was the soil in which the plant was in that was suboptimal and therefore preventing the plant from reaching its potential. So our focus is to in Chinese medicine, they say nourish the soil before you plant the seed. So we're trying on a cellular level to improve that cellular environment on the organism, so trillions of cells, the human being, and particularly that follicle cell, the follicle that is going to support the egg cell, so that egg can reach its peak potential at the time of ovulation, or if it's in an IVF setting, at egg pickup. And the same thing for the sperm. So at the time of intercourse, or at the time giving the sample for that IVF, when you're going to do the insemination, our goal is to get the sperm and egg at its peak fertility potential.
I love it. And so I think you also need to not just have the healthy baby approach trademarked, but maybe laser baby approach. And I think a lot of why we connected and what brought me to invite you as a special guest on the show is because of a video that I saw on Facebook about your work with laser acupuncture and fertility. And I know from digging in a bit more that you use lasers in several ways to help patients reach their peak potential and to start at a very basic level for people who have no idea what I'm talking about. How does this work?
So even the story behind the laser, how I came into using laser for fertility, in Japan in the 90s, a medical doctor, Dr. Oshiro, was using laser for pain. And he was treating a woman in menopause, age 55, with back pain. And he resolved her back pain, but her menstrual cycle came back, which she actually wasn't quite pleased about. That wasn't her focus of that treatment. And after a week, the bleeding stopped, and then it returned 4 weeks later, and it did this for a series of cycles for months. And he kind of just dismissed it until it happened again, another woman in menopause. So he talked to one of his colleagues in the OBGYN department, and they did a pilot study looking at 74 women that they, in English translation, was severe infertility, average age of 39, and they put them through a series of laser treatments. And then they looked at what changed. And in those 74 women, it was about 22% pregnancy rate and 68% live birth rate. So then they extended that study and they got 701 women, and again, similar 22% pregnancy rate and about 50% live birth rate. And what they thought was happening, one of the mechanisms behind laser, is that they were increasing the blood flow to the ovaries. And if you bring more blood flow to the ovaries, more nutrients, more oxygens, hormones, removing waste. Because as women age, the blood flow to the reproductive system is declining. So that was one of the reasons they thought. A group out of Denmark, it wasn't a study, but they used a laser where they did more local work with the laser, and it's a more powerful laser, covers more area, and they claim, again, it's not research, self-reporting, they claim even higher pregnancy rates. And then I talked to other experts in the area doing the laser. I got a translator to connect me with a group out of Japan, Dr. Nakamura's clinic, and they're combining acupuncture with laser, and they have 10 years of data, and they were showing that women that did laser after some unsuccessful IVFs, and then they did 3 to 6 months of laser therapy, they were doubling the blastocyst rates, getting them to day 5 embryo. So what's the mechanism behind this? There's a couple. One is laser is known to increase blood flow to the reproductive system, just like acupuncture can, just like stress reduction can support that. One of the things that I think is one of the major reasons, there's two, but one of them is it regulates inflammation. And so inflammation also can be called inflammaging. We have this accelerated biological aging. 40-year-olds aren't equal. Two 40-year-olds aren't equal. Chronologically, they're both 40, but biologically, one could be behaving like 50, and the other one is behaving like 40. And so we want to change this accelerated biological aging that leads to degenerative diseases, and I say premature fertility decline. So laser is very good at regulating inflammation, which it's being tied into many diseases. There's some discussion now about this unexplained infertility, recurrent pregnancy loss, PCOS and inflammation. We know it in endometriosis. And so its ability to regulate inflammation, and it's a systemic effect, is probably one of the main reasons it's working right now clinically. And then the other big factor is laser's been shown to improve mitochondrial function. The mitochondria are the batteries of the cells. And with age-related fertility, a lot of the issues is that the egg, the division of the egg doesn't have the energy to do this. And then when the chromosomes from the man and the woman come together, the energy's not there. So we have chromosomal issues, abnormal embryos, and then it doesn't have the power to divide in the fallopian tube or in your lab, and doesn't have the energy to implant. So if we can improve that mitochondrial function, the battery of the cell, then there's more energy for the cell division. And this, going back to our analogy of nourish the soul before you plant the seed, we're very aware that plants take sunlight, photosynthesis, and convert that into energy. Well, human beings take this red and infrared light on a cellular level, and we can turn that into energy. It's one of the reasons women and men will take coenzyme Q10. It's this nice antioxidant to improve mitochondrial function, the battery of the cells. A laser is another way to do that. And that's what I think is really exciting in the fertility world, is we know there's some mitochondrial issues in a lot of our fertility cases. So if we can find something to improve mitochondrial function, the hope is we'll have better reproductive outcomes and that healthy baby as well.
And what is what is this laser? Because whatever you're talking about, I'm like, sign me up. So I went and I bought one, and I just don't know if it's the right one. And I want to show it to you. So I want to start just putting it all over myself, my face. And is this what you're talking about?
So not exactly. So those are LEDs, and that is low level light therapy. So so people might have heard in the old days as cold laser. So what is it? The laser I'm talking about is non-ionizing, non-thermal light therapy. And that can be through LEDs, what you have, or lasers. And we're using the spectrum of infrared and red. So there's a wavelength that we're using. And so it's non-ionizing, that's good, non-cancer causing. and the power is non-heating, so it's not the lasers that women would go for hair removal, or it's not the laser that you use in surgery. It's not going to cut you, right? And so first of all, then it went from cold laser, cold as in because it doesn't heat up the tissue. It's warm, but it's cold as it's not a hot laser like you use in surgery. Then the terminology became LLLT, low level light therapy. Again, emphasizing low power, not going to cut or burn you. And now the scientific terminology is photobiomodulation, because it's photons, which you can get from either LEDs or lasers, photons, biology on the biology, and we're making changes. And so right now, the real therapeutic systems out there, I have them in my clinic. They range from $7,000 to my most expensive systems, $40,000. The average ones we have are $26,000. We have different systems I've been playing with. Remember my background in math, it comes down to joules, how much energy I'm putting to the surface, or how much exposure the blood is getting to these photons. And so we've got different systems, and I play with the math to make them kind of do the same thing. So these home systems are beneficial. I have a home system. My mother-in-law uses it all the time for her aches and pains and stuff. My kids use the low-level laser therapy, these LEDs. So if you're the public and you buy one of these systems for $500 to $2,000, yeah, put it on your body every day. That's the systemic effect you're getting, the inflammation, and it can benefit the whole body. So if you're putting it on your elbow and you also have a sore elbow on both sides, even doing one side, I was working with a woman with rheumatoid arthritis. All her joints were painful, but with the system, we could only focus on her worst one, her right knee, and all her joints benefited, even though we were focusing just on the right knee. Will it bring the blood flow to the ovaries? Maybe, maybe not, because it's just not got the power to go, wavelength lets you go depth, and power is how many joules you're going to get, power and time. And so I think with these home systems, you're really going to help with regulating inflammation, which is huge. It's actually very beneficial. Will you get enough light to the ovaries, the photons to the ovaries? No. Even with my systems that are super expensive, I'm still doubtful we're getting light to the ovaries, because there's only so much penetration these photons can get to, and it's not just getting photons to the ovaries. Do you get enough to make a therapeutic effect, right? So I think with the strong laser systems I have, we're helping blood flow locally, and we're helping systemic inflammation. I feel pretty good about that. And I'm hoping we get to the mitochondria, but I'm not sure if we can. There's so many things that are going to absorb the light on the way there. The intestines get in the way, there's tissue. The ovaries aren't always, as a surgeon, on a textbook, here's where your ovaries are. But when you open up the anatomy, they're moved all over the place, right? Things pull on them, and they're not always where you think they are. So to answer that question specifically, be careful before you start buying all these home systems thinking they're going to be the magic bullet, because even with really good laser systems that I have, there is no magic bullet. You still need the diet. You still need adequate rest and moderate exercise and good sleep, stress reduction stuff. There's supplements, there's acupuncture herbs, and you still do all that with the laser, and you still may have to do IVF or donor eggs. Again, our goal is always happy, healthy baby. So there is nothing that I have come across that if you do this, it will work. I haven't found anything like that, but it's the scales, right? Tipping the scales in favor of healthy baby. And so this is another non-invasive system that will benefit you on a cellular level. And so when we put it over the abdomen, we now know that the light therapy, there's more data coming out. The microbiome in the gut likes that. And so we know poor microbiome health, how that impacts the body health. We've used our laser therapy for interstitial cystitis. And so we're using that for pain and inflammation, right? And so we like it for our PCOS patients. We like it for our patients with endometriosis. We've used it with men as well. I've gone in and experimented a little bit with one of the IVF clinics where I lasered sperm in the petri dish, and we looked at it and see how the motility picked up after lasering it. So we're in the infancy still of understanding it, but right now it's another tool like CoQ10, like diet, like acupuncture, like the Maya massage. It's another tool to support you. And for women trying to conceive, you're looking at all your tools. So there's things that are non-invasive, more what we call on the natural side, meaning non-pharmaceutical surgical, right up to like, look what we have now, egg freezing for women that aren't ready to have children, and they have a lot of them have the opportunity to freeze these eggs so they don't have to marry the next guy. They can wait and marry the right guy because their eggs are staying at that age that they froze them at. So there's lots of opportunity.
And what does the laser look like, and how do treatments work with your clinic? And I know you combine the laser with acupuncture as well. Can you just talk me through, a fertility patient reaches out to you and wants to see you, what can they expect in terms of frequency of visits, actually what the visit entails, and how they'll feel afterwards?
Great question. So first of all, what we're doing in our clinic and Nakamura's clinic and the clinics in Denmark that I connected where they have collected some data is it seems the best dosaging is 3 times a week for those 2 weeks leading up to your ovulation. So you really want to, ideally, if time and money is not an issue, you want to get in at least 6 treatments leading up to ovulation, from bleed to ovulation. That seems to be ideal. And some people do it twice a week, some people do it once a week, but I think that's probably the ideal for getting the best therapeutic results. And looking at Nakamura Clinic in Japan, and even what we see, usually it's 3 to 6 months. It's not like you do one cycle and everything is great, but usually if you've been doing this for 6 full months and nothing still happened, then there's a chance that you're one of those people that we may not be able to help. And there are people that we've worked with over 6 months and then it helped, right? So there is no average person, but I'm giving you the average idea. What does it look like for a patient from coming to AccuBalance here in Vancouver, and what a lot of people that are practicing integrative fertility care, we do a health history. In our clinic, we call it the fertility audit because I'm a CPA, so I like to dig. So we do the Western testing like you do, plus we'll go a little bit more into the functional medicine testing. So we're looking for those subtle things that may be throwing the body out of balance, because we don't have in my clinic powerful tools like you have, ovulation drugs or IVF, to override the body. So we're looking for the body to have its ability to self-regulate, that innate ability to heal. So we're looking for subtle things that can be throwing the body off balance. We are integrative here, so we work closely with the IVF clinic here in Vancouver, all of Fertility. So we send patients for the hysteroscopies, for the hysterosalpingograms, for the RPL workup. So it's great. They get all that, and in Canada, that stuff's covered, right, under our medical system. And then things that the system won't cover, where we do more our fertility audit, then they can order those tests as well. And then we go through their history, and the men needs to be involved. I don't know how you see it in your practice, but men don't seem to be involved enough. It does take 2 to make a baby. Usually we see the female, and we remind them to get your partner in there if you're with a male partner, to get them in. And then there's dietary. We work on the diet. I will let you know that I wrote over 10 years ago the AccuBalance fertility diet. Me and Dr. Kaylee McIsaac, our naturopathic physician, just rewrote it with better recipes. So that's available for free on the AccuBalance website. And so diet's a big part of it. We'll use supplements, so nutraceuticals. We'll use mind massage, maybe naturopathic medicine, IV therapy, nutritional IV therapy, and then acupuncture, laser, and sometimes Chinese herbs. So they would be coming in anywhere from once a week to 3 times a week. I would say in our clinic, the average is twice a week for at least 1 to 2 cycles. And then usually we're able to reduce it down to once a week. But they're working on their diet. They're working on the mind-body stuff. They're exercising. They're finding time for rest. So we're working on all the things that you can control, the patient, and then we're adding things to it. And we're working with the IVF clinic. It was our clinic here in Vancouver that got actually acupuncture on site at all the IVF clinics here in Vancouver. We were the ones that started it and got thrown out at the beginning. Nobody wanted it in 2002. And now every clinic has their acupuncturists on site, and we're with Olive. So it's integrative. We talk about the healthy baby approach. Somebody comes in and they haven't seen somebody like you, Dr. Aimee. We let them know that this is what we can do, and then we let them know, are you aware of IVF, ICSI, genetic screening, egg freezing, donor egg? And they usually say, I don't want to do donor egg. No, nobody wants to do it, but some people will need to do it to have a family. But we let them know everything that's available to them. We let them know how we can help maximize their egg quality, sperm quality, uterine receptivity. And then we'll refer them to the fertility clinic to get all the Western workup. So it's truly integrative. And the same thing when patients go to the fertility clinic and they want some integrative care, or they've had unsuccessful genetically screened embryos, not implant, often they refer them to us to work with us before they do their next transfer.
And why do you feel acupuncture has impacted outcomes for patients, and what's the science behind that?
Yeah, it's that nourish. It's another way to nourish the soil, right? And so one of the main things is acupuncture increases blood flow to the reproductive system. As women age, blood flow is decreased. So if we can bring more blood to the follicles, then we bring more nutrients, we bring more hormones, we bring more oxygen. If you're doing an IVF, hopefully more IVF drugs to the follicles, and we carry away waste. Acupuncture has been shown to help reduce the effects of stress, to get you into that parasympathetic nervous system. The parasympathetic is that rest and digest, breed and feed system, emphasis on breed. And so if you're in this fight or flight, in this stress response all the time, blood is diverted from your reproductive system, is diverted from digestion so you can survive. So energy is mobilized for survival, so it's not available for healing and reproduction. And so engaging the parasympathetic, the rest and digest nervous system, we indirectly bring blood flow back. It directly does do it anyhow, but indirectly through that. And those stress hormones, here and there, it's great. It keeps you alive. But if you're constantly having your car at the RPMs at 7 driving, you're going to burn out the engine. That's inflammation, known as inflammation in the body. So if acupuncture is helping you regulate that stress response, then you're taking your foot off the gas and letting you have the brakes on, and that's beneficial. And then there's many other things. Increases endorphins, it helps regulate the hormones in the body. We see this with the women that they notice their PMS is resolved, their menstrual pain changes, their cycle becomes more regular if they're not ovulating regular. Less clotting in the blood flow. So there's that hormonal balance, regulating the hypothalamus, pituitary, ovarian axis. So those are some of the science behind why it can work. And then looking at some of the IVF studies where they look at acupuncture on transfer day, they're mixed. They really are mixed. And to be realistic, to expect one treatment to fix everything, that's like somebody with cardiovascular issues and you get them a trainer and you get them a chef and you cook for them one day, they eat a healthy day and they exercise that day, and then 2 weeks you expect their blood levels to change? No, but we know exercise and diet is an intervention for this, and if they did this over time, we would see those things change. When you look at a lot of these meta-analysis now at acupuncture on transfer day, what they're showing is dosage matters. So even one of the studies that was recent out of Australia where it didn't show a change on transfer day, when they opened up the data and they looked at women that did treatments leading up to transfer, a minimum of 3, they did have a higher pregnancy rate. In our practice, we didn't do a study, but the fertility clinic they wanted to see what we're doing for uterine receptivity. So they just looked at 2 years of our data for only at frozen embryo transfers that were genetically screened. And they just wanted to see, was there a difference? So the reason they wanted to look at the genetically screened embryo transfers is they didn't want to have any aneuploidy embryos would not implant or miscarry anyhow. Let's take those out. And although it's not research. Remember, they didn't compare groups. They just looked at, give us 2 years of your data. Like, what are you doing? Is this helping or hurting our patients? And we had the trend of higher pregnancy rate, lower miscarriage rate for the people that had the AcuBalance treatment. And then when we looked at the group more, we saw that if they had 7 or more treatments leading up to the transfer, plus on-site transfer, then it was even more higher pregnancy, lower miscarriage rate. Just on a side, somebody says, why don't you study that? We got approval from ethics. It took us a year. They got a grant, and we were starting to recruit, and COVID happened. And so they don't have the grant because we're still in COVID restrictions here. And so we were going to do a study around, because we saw that there was a change. We wanted to do an actual feasibility study, which we never got off the ground. And we'll probably have to start that all over again if the world ever becomes normal again.
I know, I hope so. And you mentioned that the clinic near you that you work with, the fertility clinic, they'll refer you patients after an unsuccessful cycle. And so for me, I integrate acupuncture from the very beginning and talk to my patients about, the things that you've brought up from the very, very beginning. But I'd love to hear, from your experiences, what kind of success stories you've seen in patients who might be seen as poor responders, and what you've seen for them after the clinic refers the patient to you after an unsuccessful cycle.
Yeah, we've seen some positive changes, but we haven't done research. So I only see the people I see. So I don't have a group to compare it to. So as you know, from a science perspective, yeah, I see, like anything, I see some that come and work with us and they don't get the take home baby. And then we see some where they've had repeatedly failed IVF cycles. And then we work with them and then they do get natural pregnancy. We see where getting ready for the next IVF, they conceive naturally. And we also see them have a better IVF response. Even though they're older, they have a better IVF response. But we don't just do one thing. Like we're doing the diet, we're doing the laser, we're doing the herb supplements. And then at home, some people are taking their supplements and some are not. Some are following the diet and some are not. But yes, we have seen cases. We've seen cases where men, their semen analysis is so poor that they do ICSI, it's unsuccessful. They send them to us because now they did ICSI to bypass the male factor. And then we work with the guy 3 to 6 months. And we've seen cases where the next semen analysis is good, where they say, don't even do ICSI yet, try naturally for a couple months, and they go on this couple to conceive naturally. And so, yes, we do see some people where we make a difference. What I think in my head, like if your batteries are wearing out, you got low mitochondria, and we do these treatments, or you have poor blood flow, I think you're the one we're going to see a difference. But if you have good blood flow and your mitochondria are fine, I don't think you're the person may not benefit. And we don't really have great ways or inexpensive ways to measure the mitochondrial health or all the inflammation that's going on in the body. I do know they don't do it here, but some clinics use the color Doppler for blood flow. And if they have poor blood flow, there's an impediment there, then they'll send them to acupuncture. For us, you come and we'll just say, assume everything could be out of balance, or let's just do everything we can to help you. And if we can test where there's issues, obviously, then we really address it. But to answer your question, yes, we definitely have lots of stories, thousands of babies that we've helped naturally and with IVF, but I don't have any group to compare it to. So I'm assuming we're helping, but if you're asking me, do you have the data? That I don't have.
Well, I appreciate your honesty, and I love all your analogies and the way you talk about acupuncture and laser treatment and everything you do. And I'm excited to share all the resources that you've shared with us on today's interview. In the article that's going to go along with this show, including links to your clinic, links to the book that you mentioned about nutrition and recipes. I think people really want to get advice from experts around this, and I feel like you're definitely someone with the thousands of babies born from treatments over the last 20 years that you've been doing this. It sounds like you're the best person to be guiding us on this as well. So thank you. Is there anything else you want to add today?
Just want to remind you that nourish the soul before you plant the seed. And so do what you can to support your body to be in its best health. There is no downside. If you do all this and you don't get the baby, you don't say, you don't regret it, right? If you all of a sudden are sleeping better, you have more energy, your digestion's good, you're happy about that, right? So nourish the soul before you plant the seed. And then just the perspective, because I've been doing this since 2000, seeing how IVF success rates have increased over those last 20 some years, seeing how technology has gone from day 3 fresh cycles to day 5 frozen and day 6, 7 frozen, and the genetic screening. It's a great opportunity to be alive because there's so many things now available to you to give you a chance to conceive. And so do your homework and be kind to yourself, and I wish you the best of luck.
I love everything that you've said. Thanks, Lorne. And where can people find you if they want to learn more?
I'm in Vancouver, and so our clinic is AcuBalance with 1C, so acubalance.ca. On that website is the fertility diet for free with recipes that you can download. And that's the best way to check out our blogs. We're constantly putting out information. There's videos about the laser fertility. So acubalance.ca. There's many AcuBalances in the world now. When we established it in 2000, people like the name, so they're everywhere. They're not affiliated with us, although they have our name. So we're the only AcuBalance in Vancouver in the world, like what we're doing. So the other AcuBalances, there is no affiliation. I get that because people will find them around the world thinking I've set up their programs, but I have not. Only the one in Vancouver right now.
Well, thank you for your time, and thank you for joining us. And Hopefully we'll have you back on to talk about the study that you're going to be doing very soon once we're back to normal.
And I'd like to have you on because I have a YouTube channel called Fertility Now where we drop short, simple, effective videos, which watching what you do, you would fit in perfectly. So we got to get you on my Fertility Now YouTube channel so people can learn more about what you're offering and doing as well.
Thank you, Lorne. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to it too.
Welcome to the Egg Whisperer Show, a program exclusively designed to promote reproductive health awareness and discuss fertility preservation options. Here is your host, the Harvard-educated fertility specialist, Dr. Aimee.
She's known as the Egg Whisperer.
Fertility expert Dr. Aimee,
and you have yet another success story.
Just launched by an East Bay fertility doctor.